All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to today's special episode of Profit Acceleration Secrets. And today we're conducting a profit acceleration coaching session. And I'm delighted to welcome my guest, Miss Pamela Kelly. Pam, how are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, Jarvis. Thank you for having me.
All right, perfect. Well, Pam, thank you for just taking me up on this opportunity to connect and to really learn more about the work you're leading and offer any thoughts that we can to help you push forward. But, Pam, before we really dive in today, I would love to just take a minute to have you introduce yourself and just give us an overview of your business and the work you're leading.
Yes, my name is Pamela Kelly with Perennial Preparedness NC, which is based in North Carolina. And I'm currently doing business as iPrep2Thrive.com. And the concept of the business originated from my personal experience. I am a prepper. I'm not a doomsday prepper. I consider myself a life cycle prepper. And my involvement with preparedness originated back in 1996 as a result of my experiencing financial unpreparedness, strategic unpreparedness in the wake of Hurricane Fran. At that time, I had a home, two young children, and was totally unprepared for 2 weeks of no power, minimal food preparations, food stockpiles. All I had was water and a small stove. So out of that experience, I said I'd do whatever I could by every legitimate means possible to
Mhm.
not be in that situation again of financial and strategic vulnerability. So that was in 1996, and fortunately, my children, who are now two awesome adults, only remember it as a great camp out. So they were not traumatized by it, but I was. So since that time, I have developed methods, primarily a accounting or budgeting tool
Mhm.
that helped me to discipline my spending, saving, in order to have at least a cash stash for emergencies. Because especially in this day and time, we rely on ATMs. Well, we have to expect the unexpected because there will be times where you will not be able to access an ATM. You won't be able to access your fat 401k, no matter how big it is. So my focus with iPrep2Thrive, and here we are, fast forward post pandemic in 2023, iPrep2Thrive focuses on equipping people with the resource and the commitment to a new mindset of preparedness. First of all, get your cash stash together. Second of all, uh, be prepared strategically. Have 21 days of food supplies. So provide resources and encouragement and strategies for people to accomplish kind of that tier one of preparedness.
Okay.
And so that's what I do.
Okay. Nice. What? My family and I were down in South Florida when Hurricane Andrew hit. And I remember that kind of being a camp out, even though I did not recognize my neighborhood. It completely destroyed my neighborhood down in Miami. So I resonate with what you said about your kids, thinking it was a good time during that. Um, but Pam, I would love if you could just take us maybe a little bit deeper into your products and the services, just like you were starting to share. Can you break down the tiers and the different services that you're creating for the clients that you serve in your business?
Sure. At this time, what I do provide is an app called Cashflow 5 10 10 75. It's available for Android and iPhone, which mimics the same template that I used as an Excel spreadsheet for many years.
Okay.
So that for me, that was the first step, that every time I got a dollar, whatever my source of income was, you enter it in this spreadsheet or the app, and it automatically buckets that income into 75%, 10%, 10%, and 5%. That adds up to 100%. So those buckets, that 75% limits is a guide as your threshold of consumer spending. The 10% you put away for saving. Another 10%, I am a Christian, African American woman, made in America, proud American. So I call that 10% investing in your kinship communities. And again, another 5% investing in kinship community, because that is potentially the most impactful area in which we can all benefit. So that's a tool that I make available. I'm also an amateur radio operator. I'm encouraging people to invest in communication. They're fortifying their family communications. And so I encourage folks to have a meeting, family gatherings at those regular events during the year, such as holidays. So I do, what I provide sometimes is not tangible. The things that I provide are really guidance, budget tools. I promote products such as everything from getting two-way radios, ham radios, promoting food lists, preparation food lists, like what foods should you have if you do have a blackout. So information like lists,
Sure.
apps, communications products, strategic products, things like that. So that's what I promote at iPrep2Thrive.
Okay. And I still want to maybe, I don't want to say dig deeper, but I'm just curious because, again, being a South Florida native, this time of year, right now, we're in the midst of hurricane season, for example. I would love to think that, your business and potentially other competing businesses like this hopefully is a great season for the services you offer. But Pam, how would you say that your offerings are different from many of your competitors out there? What would that start to
Oh,
look like?
oh, absolutely. Again, getting back to the apps, particularly the app, you have to start somewhere. And so what I promote people to do, first of all, you need to have a cash stash.
Mhm.
So that tool, what I primarily promote at this time is the cash flow app,
Okay.
because preparedness for every American, a lot of times when things happen, it's because we don't have an emergency cash flow. So that's what I promote. And then beyond that, the things that families have to do if you are in the midst of a hurricane. Do you have your documents? Do you have a waterproof container for your documents? Have you made plans for your pets? For instance, people have pets. We don't often think about those members of the family. So, for instance, if you are in Florida and you are impacted by a hurricane, have you previously planned where to shelter? Have you previously planned to have all your documents in a waterproof case? That information I make available on my website. There's some pretty good waterproof, fireproof cases that we
Okay.
all have to have. So again, it's those things that it does not take a lot of time or money, but you have to just self-preparedness in advance of the expected, unexpected. So again, in your case, if you're in Florida, have that cash stash, because in any event, whenever there's a widespread emergency, ATMs are going to go down. Even when they're up and you go to the bank, banks will limit how much you can take out if there's a widespread enough emergency. That cash stash is so primary. Having a 21-day food supply, having a 21 days of water. So again, when I talk about tier one preparedness, and there's preparedness for retirement. That's not really I'd love for people to get their cash stash together, and then you can segue to those other conversations about long-term preparedness. So I'd have to say where I am competitive is that I'm offering what I call that tier one preparedness.
Okay.
That when you have no power for a couple of weeks, when you have for instance, lost a job, you're temporarily unemployed. What are the things that you can do? Because that represents a personal doomsday, doesn't it? I said I'm not a doomsday prepper, but in our daily lives, we actually go through personal doomsday events.
Sure.
And so my recommendation, and that's where I think I'm competitive, is that how do you deal with those personal doomsdays that will happen in life? For instance, not being without, not having power, not being able to get to the ATM, um, not being able to put your hands on your 401k when something happens. So again, those things, and especially the app, once it's downloaded, there's no internet needed for core functions to work.
Hmm.
Whereas a lot of other financial apps, such as Dave Ramsey, there's very good financial budgeting apps. But what I'm trying to do is introduce people just to a simple method that does not rely on being tethered to the internet to start that process, start that mindset of financial, strategic, even spiritual preparedness. Again, I incorporate biblical principles that are compatible with budgeting, with being in business, and being mindful that even in business, you have to set aside kind of a cash stash, a business cash
Sure.
stash. So I keep it tier. That's what I consider. I keep it tier one, very grassroots. That here's
Okay.
where you start. That whether you're an individual, a homeowner, someone in a small business, you have to have these basic things to give you a peace of mind that no matter what happens, you're ready.
All right. Well, so Pam, the goal with our conversation today is really to just try to help you uncover any opportunities for business growth. But I guess I love to ask, if we come up with a strategy, maybe one or two at least, that sound beneficial, you think would help you take some steps forward. Teach us, what does your business look like in the next 6 to 12 months? What are some goals and some objectives that you have, for those stretch targets 12 months out?
Sure. And I'll share this revelation that I had recently when I started the business. When we look at business, we look at being a vendor to customers. And that's actually how I started out also. Okay, I have these products I want to promote and the apps. But then I realized that preparedness isn't really something you can sell, is it? It's not tangible. It's really a mindset. And I found that in America, a lot of people, unpreparedness has almost become an acceptable risk. And the statistics bear that out. That I had to overcome, and this is still part of the challenge, Jarvis. The reason why I'm reaching out to you is that so many people do not consider preparedness as a necessity, even after the pandemic. Even after climate change, we tend to expect that FEMA will come to our rescue, that the government will issue stimulus checks if the emergency is bad enough, that somehow we can use credit cards if we run out of money.
Mhm.
But the reality is that has left us in a country where 63% of people live paycheck to paycheck
Mm.
and
Interesting.
yet still do not. Yeah, 63% of people live paycheck to paycheck. That includes 60% of 100K wage earners. Now that's amazing that people earning high incomes also live paycheck to paycheck. So how can that be that they don't feel, yet at the same time they don't feel preparedness is so important as to have simply an emergency cash stash? So my challenge has been, how do I get people to recognize that preparedness has really become uh, non-optional, that it's imperative?
Mm.
So I had to really consider that preparedness is really a community partner um, initiative. That instead of me trying to sell you preparedness, I needed to say, become a partner in promoting preparedness as part of the new brand identity of your family, your business, our community. And that's how our nation will become what I feel more economically sound, more socially just, because unpreparedness brings out the worst in us, doesn't it?
Well, I guess
And so I,
teach me, yeah, teach me this, Pam. I'm curious to ask because I will say, at least in parts of our conversation, I feel like there's a very high level conversation that we're having right now, but I want to dig in deeper. So
Mhm.
describe for me, who is your perfect customer profile for your business?
Perfect customer profile it is actually that 63% who are living paycheck to paycheck.
All right, but tell me about them. Like
And
break them down for me.
and actually those are folks that uh, are saying, well, I am living paycheck to paycheck. And they may not reveal that to you, but they may say, well, um, I'm not satisfied with the way, my personal economy is going. So I want to make a change. Those are the folks that I'm trying to reach out to. Uh, because that is where I feel that we can begin to say, okay, let's make financial preparedness part
Hmm.
of your family brand identity. Because in a lot of families, they're living paycheck to paycheck and using credit cards, and that's unsustainable.
Okay.
So, and yet at the same time, um, the community that I'm a part of, and I believe, I have something that I call kinship community. We're all born into some type of kinship relationship. Again, for me, I am Christian. I'm an African American woman. So here's the challenge with my kinship community, the African American community. A lot of times we don't want to talk about money, do we? If I say, okay, I have a budget app, what I've been challenged to introduce, and that's why I've changed from vendor to suggesting become a community partner in promoting preparedness.
Sure.
Because then I'm not saying, hey, you've got a problem and you need to change your money habits. I'm saying to you, here's a set of tools that if you're living paycheck to paycheck, take the preparedness audit with this app. Try it for 30 days to see if your income is exceeding that 75% threshold. If it is, then here are some tools that can help you build a cash stash. Because what I
So,
do offer people when they subscribe is 17% if they refer other people.
all right. So let me still back up to the question I asked though. So break down your perfect customer profile because with the example you just started to give, like when you are talking to Black Christian women, I have to assume there is a certain messaging that's going to resonate. When you're talking to, middle-aged Latino men, I would assume there's a certain messaging. So break down the perfect customer profiles that you've
Well, the
established.
target the target customer, and I'll be frank again, the target customer at this time for me is the African American community.
Okay.
And
So,
here's why. And here's why. There's another statistic that by 2053, assuming that we are not uh, maintaining habits of consistent saving or investing in our community, that by 2053, our average median income will be zero.
okay.
As a member of this kinship community, and I can resonate with that because again, at one time, I was spending 100% of my dollar. My whole mission has emerged out of this need to encourage people, especially in my kinship community,
Mhm.
that if we're to avoid and avert really a second economic captivity, there's no better reason, there's no other way to describe it. Uh, what kind of future do you want for our present generation and the future generations within 30 years?
Sure.
So I'd have to say, Jarvis, that my target
Mhm.
demographic is the African American community and those within the community that are financially challenged at this time and want to make a change.
But
So you
define,
mentioned,
yeah, define
mhm.
financially challenged. What is financially challenged?
Well, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, do you feel financially challenged?
No, no. Well, and I
It,
guess I'm asking. Yeah, I'm asking that in a way like what where I would like, and this is very much how I coach my clients, Pam. So when I say,
mhm.
describe for me your perfect customer profile, I want you to say, hey, my perfect customer profile is a 34-year-old African American woman that's only making $20,000 per year. She's in this type of job. She's in this type of housing. She's in this type of current kinship community. Like really lay out, her scenario, because then, Pam, you can start to say, this is how I can get, the cash flow program. This is how I can message it in a way where she's ready to listen to me and invest in the program, invest in downloading the time and the app, so she can have positive, momentum with what she's trying to get her to the vision that you would envision for her success, right? So that's just one part of what I think I'm hearing in the conversation is I think you know your statistics incredibly well, but now let's turn those statistics into a person that you can talk to in a one-on-one relationship through your marketing, right? Does that make sense?
right, right, and it makes perfect sense. And if I may point out with the scenario, the example that you gave of a woman who's making 20,000, that's why I shared that statistic
Mhm.
of the 63% living paycheck to paycheck, including those who are making 100K or more. We tend to think
Sure.
that the ones who are struggling financially, and that's why I kind of hesitated to really generalize and say, oh, someone making 24,000 is struggling. But here's the thing, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Because that person making 24,000, they might be, for their bills, they might be spending 75% or less. And therefore they might be actually saving. Whereas the person making 100K is spending on, a car payment, a
Sure.
house payment. So I kind of Jarvis, I do hesitate to kind of generalize. So that's why my focus customer is someone who who kind of admits to themselves, while they may not be admitting to anyone else,
Hmm.
that sometimes we put on a public facade. We're taking these cruises, we're doing this and doing that, but at the end of the day, that 5, 10, 10, 75 is imbalance. That person is spending not only 75%, they're spending their 10%, their 10%, to the
Great.
point
Well, let
that,
let,
yeah.
let, let me
So the target customer is again really someone who,
so let,
how
let
do I,
me
and
let
you're
me
right.
jump in with a yeah. Let me jump in with an example for you, Pam. So what's your favorite movie?
Oh, gee, that's
Yeah,
that's
just
that's a, a blindside question. I just have, I have favorite movies. I suppose a favorite movie would be West Side Story, and that's
okay. And
probably dating myself.
oh, it's a classic. I love that story, that movie. What
Hmm.
who's your favorite character in that movie?
Oh, I think it would be Riff.
All right. So
Yeah.
are there characteristics about Riff that resonates with just you, your everyday person, the person you are?
Oh,
Whether
well,
it's per-
he I think his acting, he was the one that, he was a troublemaker, actually. He was quite troublesome, but
uh-oh.
actually a rebel in some respects. It did not end well for him. Um, uh, but the fact that he attempted to be a leader,
Okay.
he was a leader of his tribe, his territory, his gang,
His his
uh,
his kinship community, right?
his kinship community. He
Okay.
wanted
So
to protect what he felt as a kinship community. So I guess that
yeah.
resonated. Yeah.
So when we watch movies, a lot of times some of our favorite movies have certain characters that we just watch them and we're like, man, I really like that character for whatever the reasons. Great
Hmm.
acting,
Yeah.
great personality, great leadership, whatever's right. Hollywood movies aren't targeted at big picture communities, they are literally targeted at individual people. So there are dynamics of every character in our favorite TV shows and our favorite Hollywood movies that speak to us. And I give that example, Pam, because I will say it has to be the same thing for your business. Your
Mhm,
solution, the cash flow app, has
mhm.
to speak to Rochelle, who is the 34-year-old single mom of two kids who is in this financial situation. So I would challenge you to attempt to, really create a profile of who you want to connect with through your app and other services that you're offering. It won't be generalized or I can't speak generalized at all. It's actually going to really get to a core aspect of the people you really want to attract into your business. But that was trying to connect the dots with like movies. Hollywood is the master of connecting, who we see on screen with who we are as people.
Mhm, mhm.
But
Well,
your
you
business
bring up.
model can benefit from
Mhm.
that as well. That's all.
Okay, and you bring up an excellent point, Jarvis, that I'll definitely give more thought to, because this whole thing arose out of my personal experience in 1996
Right.
when I wasn't making 100K. I was actually, although I was making a pretty good wage, but the problem was I was spending all of it.
Mm.
So
So your
so
your
perhaps the
target
person.
customer might yeah, your target customer might be Pamela Kelly from 1996. Now
Who
we
had the
need to
two
find
kids.
we need to find all the Pam Kellys who can resonate, and they're sitting out there waiting on you. But I think you're gonna have to get
Well, I
really
like that.
clear.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
that's very helpful, because that actually, you just your comment about that made me revisit
Mhm.
why I got into this in the first place. Because as a woman, and really it had nothing to do with being an African American woman, or a Christian back then in
Mhm.
1996. I simply was trying to overcome extreme difficulty because I
Mhm.
was not financially or strategically prepared.
Okay. No, that's just again, I'm shooting from the gut based on how you kind of laid out the conversation. But I mean, I love what you're building. I will say, even for me, I personally, I think I have components of even doomsday prepper in my head. I don't know if you've been watching the news about the volcano over in Italy that's set to, people are preparing for that. But I think from a business point of view, target, getting really crystal clear, like this is who I'm serving through my business. I think it'll be really unique to what you're building.
Hmm.
That's my gut call for you.
Oh, awesome. Great advice.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sorry, I think I
Thank you.
did kind of fast forward over one question, but I'd still love to get really clear. So a year from now, what's a major goal, one or two goals that you have for your business still?
In a year from now, I'd like to see almost a critical mass of people who say, yes, I've used your app. It's helped me self audit where I'm at financially, that I'm now engaged in and I use self preparedness a lot,
Okay.
because we can try to get people to prepare. I mean, FEMA does that all the time, try to get people to prepare. But until
Mhm.
you kind of are brought to your knees financially, and that's how self preparedness kicked in for me, that I said, nobody else is going to help me do this, I have to do it myself.
All right.
That's
Well,
the goal that I'm looking for in a year, that people begin
and
to adopt a brand identity of simply self preparing financially by saving. And I provide saver schedules. You can start at $1, add 40 cents each week, and in a year you have $500. That's what I'm looking
well,
for in a
Pam,
year.
question for you. Well,
Sure.
you said a critical mass. How many is a critical mass? What number is that?
When you get, and this is something I learned in physics, when you get 1,000 of anything, you've now set something in motion that almost becomes self-sustaining, because that 1,000 people in a year, they've adopted a habit they've adopted really a change of habit
Mhm.
that becomes almost self-sustaining. If in a year people who use the app or use the resources I provide and say, oh, this time last year I didn't have a dime in my savings account, but now, Pam, I at least have $500,
All
and I'm
right.
going to keep this going. Not only that, I'm going to share the information with other people.
Okay. So
So
we're saying
mhm,
in a year we want 1,000 people on the app.
at least, and I know that's very, very conservative, but again, a lot of people, the resistance to change is something to is something formidable for in terms of preparedness, promoting preparedness. So
All right.
in a
So
year, I want to see adoption of the app, widespread adoption of the app. I just say 1,000 because that's just something from physics that, critical mass um, of 1,000 behaviors begins to
so
become self-sustaining.
yeah. So teach me this really quickly. What does your strategic planning process in your business look like?
I promote the app and the preparedness message on Twitter, on Facebook.
No, no, no,
I
not,
do
I
have
guess
an
not. Yeah, not marketing, just strategy. What's your process to just sit back and set goals and say, hey, for this quarter, right? We're in Q3 of the year right now today. So for this
Mhm, mhm.
quarter, my goal is to get this many people in the app, and for the last quarter of the year, like what's your process to strategically planning your business?
I guess by quarter, it would be simply you say strategy, sales, I guess sales of the app. Yeah. Which is easily measured by Google and Apple App Store. Uh, and the metrics of response to that.
Okay.
So I want to see increasing response to the use of the app. Does that answer your question when you say specifically strategies for, I guess, the metrics of measuring how many are sold?
Okay. Not
What?
not specifically. No, ma'am, it doesn't. And that's another just quick observation that I'm making in our conversation here is,
Mhm,
I
sure.
want to encourage you to I'll say zoom out, right, and to lay out strategically exactly how you want your business to start hitting some of the key metrics.
And
So
what are
don't
those
worry.
metrics?
Well, so I think that's a part of the conversation. So I would say
Mhm,
right now, today, right, I'd say execution wouldn't be the main focus. One of the things that I encourage for all of my clients, Pam, is that every day they book at least 30 minutes to 60 minutes on their calendar. And that time is simply called TTT, or time to think. And so
okay.
every day we turn off the computer, we turn off, the cell phones, what have yous, and we just take some time to think about what it is we're going to do in our business. And so, an example, what that would look like. This is
Mhm.
me putting on my business coaching hat for you right now. Pam, you said over the course of the next 12 months, you want 1,000 people on your app. My challenge to you would be, what would it take to get 1,000 people on that app in the next 7 days? So now,
Okay. Hmm.
to answer that question, now you obviously you need to sit back and think about it, right? And then
That's true. Hmm.
and strategically say, okay, wow, if I had to get 1,000 people in 7 days, whoo, okay, I would do, and then lay it out A, B, C, D. But now you're thinking strategically, and now you take each component of that strategy and you implement it systematically. That's kind of how I would say. So to answer my question, how do you plan strategically? Okay, well, Jarvis, every night I book an hour on my time where I sit back and I ask myself questions that would
Hmm.
completely change the scope of my business plan. And then week by week, I work the plan to answer that question. That's an example of a strategic approach. But at the end of, and so the metrics, right? They come out of that. Okay, so 1,000 people in the next 7 days, it means I need 200 people on average per day signing up. So now the metrics, the second block of time that I encourage all of my clients to put on their calendar is
Mhm, mhm,
something called TTM. So that's time to measure. So those are two
mhm,
appointments I would add to my calendar every day, at least 30 minutes, maybe 60 minutes a piece. But we have to take time to think strategically as business owners. And then we have to take time to measure our performance for the day. How many leads did we get? How many sales did we get? How many referrals did we get? Right.
mhm.
So those are just two strategic approaches, but I mean that's a consistent to do that I'd recommend for all business owners. So I'm glad we're having a conversation
I like
because
that.
yes,
Mhm,
ma'am. Because I want you to be like gung ho, like every day I'm challenging myself on a new question. Okay, so I got 100, new downloads today, but I missed my goal of 200. So what do I need to do tomorrow? And then we keep tweaking the process until we start hitting the metrics that we define in our business. That again, I'm talking high level myself, but I just wanted to break that down really quickly.
mhm, mhm. Well, and I so much appreciate the dialogue here today because I got two things out of it as to zeroing in on that target customer, and it
Yes, ma'am.
made me reconsider who I was and what made me adopt this, the practices that I use now. In fact, so those are women who are and were in situations similar to mine. You're absolutely right, and I do like the TTT, time to think, and TTM, time to measure.
All right,
Good
fantastic.
deal.
No,
Good
Pam,
deal.
before I let you go, please take a minute to just share with our audience the best ways that they can learn more about you, your business, the app for sure, where to go to download that, and anything else you want to share with us, any social media as well.
Uh, Absolutely. I invite everyone to visit www.iprep2, the number 2, thrive.com, and they'll learn all of the information there is to know about me and what I call life cycle preparedness. And the cash flow app is available on Google Play and the App Store. It costs $1.99 to download and no ads. And once you download it, it's totally independent of the internet for all core functions to work. So that's something especially useful for parents. If you have young people, you want to teach them budgeting at any age. It's useful for anyone, uh, no matter what stage of life they're in, just to check and see if they're uh, able to save effectively and invest in community and just be financially preparedness strong. The app will help, is a tool to help do that.
All right, perfect. Well, I will be downloading myself, Pam, and make sure I have the links, and I'll be sure to post those with the show when we get this posted to the podcasting world. But Pam, I just want to say thank you for this chance to learn more about everything. Really enjoyed this conversation, and I know everything that we just shared is going to be helpful for everyone out there. We thank you all for plugging in and making us a part of your day to day. So until next time, this is Jarvis and Pamela, and we're wishing you more leads, more customers, and more profits. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.